Thank you. Good evening, all. And this evening, folks, we have is Clet here. Clet's here. Yeah, you're welcome. So just going to get started with agenda item one. We'll have apologies. I've received no apologies of any from the floor members. No. Okay. So it's agenda item two, which is declarations of interests. And is there any interest from the floor? Happy to take these when we proceed through the agenda, folks. Is that okay? Okay, the next item we're going to move into agenda item six, which is the confidential report, folks. So I need to seek a proposer and seconder before we go into committee.
So proposed, Chair.
Second.
Thank you. As proposed by Councillor Greenfield, seconded by Councillor Savage. Thank you. Members and listeners to the audio feed, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now move into the confidential session of the Council. And this means that we'll be turning off the public audio feed of the meeting, and this will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can ACT officers please turn off the audio? session? Thank you. Okay, members, we're going to move back to agenda item 3, and we have 2 items for information. Item 3.1 is performance audit and assessment report, and we have Martina taking these 2 items.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, item 3.1 is for information. It is from the Audit Office. It's their report on our 2021 performance audit and assessment, and the details within the report. But the good news is that we have had a clean bill of health, and there were no recommendations for improvement or proposals for improvement in relation to that period. Normally we would have had this by November of last year, and Colette may wish to speak to this if she's still here, but we are then hoping that we'll have our audit for this year commencing shortly, I think in December. And I suppose it's just with the impact of COVID and everything else, it's had an impact on our audit or on their audit schedule. But we continue to work with colleagues in the Audit Office in relation to these matters. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Martina. Folks, it's an item for information. If there's any questions or comments, or Colette, do you want to come in? Oh, Colette, I just seen Colette's just, oh, she's there, yeah.
Yeah.
Colette, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I reiterate what Tina has said. So this was much scaled down audit this year because members will remember that the Department for Communities had said that at the beginning of the pandemic, it wasn't necessary for Council to produce an improvement plan for 2021. So therefore, without an improvement plan, we were unable to audit that. So it was much scaled down, and we made the decision not to have any proposals for improvement within this document. It was delayed, as Martina has said, but actually it was primarily because we were waiting for legislation to go through by the department, and that did go through, but unfortunately it wasn't as wholesome as we had all wished it to be. So we were then required to complete this audit, and it was completed by the end of November. And as Martina has also said, we're about to start the next one, and we have a deadline to complete that by the 28th of February. So that will hopefully, if we get that done, that will bring us right up to date and back on schedule for all of the audits again, which is, I think it's a really good place to be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Colette. Any other comments, folks, before we move on again? Martina, do you want to come in again, or?
No, that's great. No, it's grand. Yeah, we've been continuing to work with the department and the Audit Office all along through this period. So yeah, it's all, hopefully, as Colette says, we'll get back on an even keel very shortly. So thank you. I'll just move on then to item 3.2, Chair. So again, it's an information item. It's a mid-year performance report. It's just a high-level summary of progress on our business plans, and the service committees, as you will be aware, got the detailed business plan progress reports back in November, and also that would contain also details of progress with the medium-term recovery plan, and then specifically also this includes progress with our performance improvement plan for this year, including any statutory performance indicators and standards. Happy to take any questions, Chair. It's really just a high-level summary report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Martina. Louise, Councillor McKinstry, you have your hand up. Sorry.
Thank you. No, it's all right. No, I just wanted to note on in Appendix 4, just it had been a proposal back in 2018 about the implementation of the autism friendly plan and the training and everything, and I see that a lot of the performance indicators are set at amber, and I just wanted to highlight it, that I just think I would just like to put a wee bit more pressure on. Maybe this isn't the right forum to do it, but I just wanted it noted that I do think we should be making a wee bit more progress on this, because we are leading the way with so many of our disability-friendly initiatives, and I think this is one that we really should be pushing forward in, because I know a lot of the time we use the COVID as an excuse, but COVID has really created, really highlighted for people with conditions such as autism, you know, how difficult life has been for them this last few years. And really, I think we should be pushing forward as a council to make sure that all of these indicators are green for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKinstry. Yes, I concur with those comments, and those comments are duly noted. Martina, do you want to follow up with those?
Yeah, well, just to say, I suppose that, you know, there will be or should be a separate update in relation to that notice of motion back to the Relevant Service Committee that it was, you know, taken to in the first place, and then we'll continue to report on it in this end. But I suppose just to give some consolation that it is amber and not red, so obviously there's some work happening, and it's only up until September, so there's still some time left. And I know there are a number of initiatives happening in relation to that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Savage, you have a hand up.
Thanks, Chair. It's more by way of comment. It's just in Appendix 4, really, that it's stark that the 4 red categories, one are building control and planning. And I think that we all know the issue is resourcing there, and it just more or less a comment I'd like to make is I'd like to, hopefully that will be addressed sooner rather than later. It has been going on for quite a while, and whilst the staff there are doing excellent service, they're very much overworked. So I'd like to think that in the not too distant future would have adequate resourcing in that department to meet the demand that's out there. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Savage, and yes, as a member of the Planning Committee as well, yes, I would concur with those comments. Yeah, the staff are working hard, and they do have resource issues. So, yeah, fully concur. Members, any other comments or questions? Okay, Martina, thank you. I'm going to move on to agenda item 4. 4.1 is an item for decision, folks. So we're going to have Carol presenting the revised internal audit plan. Carol.
Thank you, Chair. Regular revisions of this year's internal audit plan have been reported to the Performance and Audit Committee during the year. It has been necessary to further amend the plan, and this report provides an update of audit activity plan for the remainder of this financial year and reflects changes to the original internal audit plan as a result of changing priorities and resources available. The main changes to the plan include the inclusion of a Piece 4 audit from management request. This replaces a community centre audit. It includes the inclusion of 5 days for policy development work, increase in investigation and consultancy work, and the increase in the scope of certain audits. 4 follow-up audits have been deferred until the beginning of the 22-23 year to allow management further time to implement all recommendations. These follow-ups will be prioritised as soon as possible, hopefully in early April. To allow for the amendments and to take into account the resources available to the end of the year, 2 audits that are considered less a priority have been removed from the plan, but will be considered for inclusion in the 22-23 draft audit plan. Contingency days of 10 have now been allocated out. So I ask members to approve the revised internal audit plan for 21-22 attached at Appendix 1. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Carol. Folks, we have the revised internal audit plan in Appendix 1 in your documents. It is an item for decision, but happy to take questions and comments, folks. Tracy, do you want to come in with the first question?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's great to note that the plan remains flexible, considering the times that we're in, and that's good to note for Carol. I just wanted to find out about the 4 follow-up audits that aren't going to be done to April. If those aren't completed, those are previous limited audit reports. Would that impact the annual opinion at year end if they can't be done?
Thank you, Tracy. Carol, do you want to answer that question, the follow-up audits?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tracy. Yes, it would have an impact on our overall opinion if recommendations had not been progressed by the time we do the follow-ups in April. We do allow for a cut-off period for follow-up audits to be completed for the previous year. We take that into consideration. We also track all recommendations through the recommendation tracker, and management responses and implementation of recommendations are monitored that way also. We are hopeful that the assurances can be raised. They are limited audits, and we're hopeful that they can be raised in early April at the start of the next plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Tracy. The next question, folks, we have Sam with your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, it's just a question about the amendments that have been made there at 4.1.2. I was trying to link those in with 6.4, which was a previous paper we looked at in terms of the audit progress report. It's just a question, the increase in the investigation and consultancy work, is that in relation to those things we saw in 6.4 around those additional items that had been brought in during the year?
Thank you, Sam. Carol, do you want to come in again with those amendments?
Yes, we started with a budget for investigation work at the start of the year. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it has been necessary to increase that during the year. The resultant increase in this revised audit plan is as a result of the recent investigation work. One particular investigation did take up more time than we originally had planned for. So yeah, it is an ongoing, investigations do crop up from time to time, and they are resource intensive, but they are a result of the ongoing investigations. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol. Sam, you okay with those comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, this is an item for decisions. We need a proposer. Councillor McKinstry.
Yes, happy to propose.
Thank you. You need a seconder, folks?
I'll move to second.
Thank you, Alderman Kennedy. Proposed by Councillor McKinstry, seconded by Alderman Kennedy. Thank you. Okay, the next item is 4.2, which is an item for information, and it's a 6-monthly assurance statement presented by Carol.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with the Council's assurance framework, heads of department and strategic directors complete and sign 6-monthly assurance statements. As a result of completing their assurance statements, heads and directors are given assurance on their risk management, internal controls, responses to audit recommendations, any emerging issues, and also the impact of COVID-19 on their service delivery and practices. The assurance statements are attached at Appendix 2 to 5 for the period ended September. Any governance issues noted by either directors or heads of department will be considered for inclusion in the annual governance statement. I'd ask members to note the 6-monthly assurance statements. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, folks, it's an item for information. Happy to take comments or questions. We do have some of the directors here on with us. Councillor McKinstry, you want to comment?
And thanks for letting me in, Chair. And it's just a general comment about the amount of information that's given beside each of the headings. And it's just inconsistent. Some department heads seem to furnish us with lots of information, and it helps to get a better feel for the position that each department's at. So, you know, I'm not a specialist in this area, and maybe I'm expecting something that just can't be there, but I do find the commentary alongside each item very useful. And I'm just wondering, could it be encouraged by, you know, that heads of department to populate the grid a bit more for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKinstry. Yeah, those comments are duly noted, and we can pass those on to the directors, certainly. Tracy, you have your hand up. Do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from Louise's, just the detail in the Strategic Director's 6-monthly assurance statements. The community and growth one, for example, identified no significant governance issues, yet the head of departments beneath that had concerns relating to planning and building control. I just thought it would be useful if they're not going to, that those issues would be included in the Strategic Director's ones as well.
Councillor Tolman.
Thank you, Tracy. Yes, Olga, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Tracy, and the points that you have made are noted and will be taken on board for the next assurance statement. I just want to make the members aware that the statutory targets are reported back through to the Planning and Regulatory Committee for both departments. So members are made aware of what the current performance issues actually are. Both of the departments actually transferred in when the new Community and Growth Directorate was set up in July. So they haven't literally been in the new directorate for 6 months. So, but we will be taking that on board for the next assurance statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you both. Councillor Mackle, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and it was just to back up what Councillor McGinty was saying in terms of the comments. And the Economic Development report has no comments at all. And I mean, COVID had no impact at all in the department, which I find hard to believe. Do you know what I mean? So it seems to me it's just really been a tick box and no thought put into it at all. So just to have those comments noted, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mackle. Yes, those comments are duly noted and they will be passed on to the directors. Thank you. Sam, do you want to come in? You've your hand up.
Sure, thank you. Just across each of the ones that we have there under item 4, which is internal control, says it can confirm that all accepted recommendations made by internal and external audit have been or are being implemented as agreed. I just wondering in relation to this statement, which I think is it's a very important statement. It's a kind of an accountability statement almost by each of the directors to the chief executive. When we look at 6.5.2 tonight, there are 4 priority 1 recommendations which are still outstanding across the organisation. And I'm just wondering in future statements, should those priority 1 recommendations that are outstanding, should they be brought in with a bit of an explanation here? I know that dates have been agreed, future dates have been agreed past the original ones, and those are accepted, but I'm just thinking in terms of this accountability statement, is there scope to be able to bring in those outstanding priority 1 recommendations in and just highlight them within each of the statements? Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Carol, do you want to come and answer those priority 1s? Yep. Carol.
Yes, thank you, Sam. I think, yes, you're right. It's something that maybe we could improve on in terms of long overdue recommendations, or maybe dropping off the assurance statements. And they're more focused on current audits or completed audits, recent audits. So yes, this will be highlighted to the relevant directors and heads, and I think completed going forward.
Thank you, Carol. Sam, are you happy with those questions or comments? Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Members, this is an item for information only, so you're happy enough to move on, folks? Okay, next item is again item for information, and it's 4.3, and we have Carol presenting this item.
Regular updates are provided to the Committee on the National Fraud Initiative work. This paper provides members with an update on the completed NFI exercise, which commenced in October 2020 and involved data being extracted from Council's financial systems and submitted to the Audit Commission for analysis. On completion of this, matches are reported back to Council. Potential matches are reported back for investigation. And these were carried out by nominated staff within finance, payroll and audit overseeing. All matches now have been investigated, and pleased to inform members that there are no incidents of fraud in the matches that have been reported. The action plan for the latest NFI exercise is complete and included in Appendix 6 for members' information. The next NFI exercise is due to commence in October 2022 and will be reported back to members in due course then later next year.
Thank you, Carol. Again, this is an item for information, folks. Any comments on this item? Okay, folks, we'll move on to item 4.4. This is really only an item for noting. It's the dates for the Performance and Audit Committee for the year 2022. You happy just to note those dates, folks? Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item 5, which is the correspondence. And we have 5.1, which is the Northern Ireland Audit Office Grant Fraud Risk Guide. Again, Claire, do you want to come in and if you may want to comment on it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And thank you very much for putting this on the agenda tonight. We issued this document in October, and it's actually a series of fraud risk guides that we have issued in the last year. So we had one on procurement and another one on general fraud risks. And the reason why we have produced it is obviously there's a heightened fraud risk as a result of the pandemic, and grant fraud in particular. And I'm sure members might have heard some commentary from the CNAG this week around the 10K or the small business grant scheme as well, and some of the issues that have come forward from it. But it's recognised that grant schemes during the pandemic were implemented at pace, and in some cases were quite unique, and also were in some cases also administered by officers who maybe had not previously been involved in grant schemes. So it's just really, I suppose, it's quite just a useful document for organisations to look at if they are designing grant schemes going forward, to be aware of the types of risks and how those could be mitigated. So hopefully Council will find that helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire, and I certainly found it helpful. I'm just a new member on Council just from this year, from January, and I had some particular interest in the case studies that were included. So, no, thank you. Any comments on this item, folks? You all happy just to note it? Yeah. Okay. And the next item on the agenda is item 7, which is any other relevant business. I haven't been notified any other business, folks. Is there any from the floor? Oh, okay. Well, on that note, folks, thank you. Thank you for everyone, for the members for their attendance this evening. I want to thank the officers as well for their attendance and preparing all the documents for the meetings. And I want to wish you all a happy Christmas if I don't see you all before then. So happy Christmas and good night, everyone.
Happy Christmas.